You know, there's this saying we all hear, with age comes wisdom. We kind of take it for granted, right? Like it's just a law of nature. But what if it's not? What if that's actually wrong? Today, we're going to dig into a really old idea that completely flips that belief on its head.
So let me ask you, does wisdom just happen when you get older? I think most of us would say, yeah, of course. It just seems to make sense. But what if that's a huge and maybe even dangerous oversimplification? What if getting wiser isn't a sure thing at all?
All right, so let's get into it. There's this ancient text, the Bhagavad Gītā, and it has a really different take. It says wisdom isn't just about knowing stuff. It's more like this delicate inner balance. And here's the kicker. The Gita claims this balance can actually break down, that you can lose your wisdom as you get older. So that brings up a pretty big question. How? What could possibly cause that? Well, to figure that out, we have to look at what this text calls the corrosion of late life. It sounds a little grim, I know, but it's basically about the specific things that eat away at our wisdom over time. And it points the finger at two main culprits. But here's the thing, they're not what you'd expect. We're not talking about big dramatic outbursts. No, these are quiet, sneaky emotions that can work in the background for your entire life, just slowly, steadily doing their damage.
First up is envy, or asūyā. And the way it's described here is fascinating. Think of it like a magnet that's constantly pulling your attention away from your own life and forcing you to look at others. You get trapped in this endless game of comparison, always measuring yourself against someone else. And if you do that for decades, well, it turns into this deep, bitter resentment.
The second one is doubt, or saṁśaya. We got to be really clear about this. We're not talking about healthy skepticism, asking good questions. No, this is something much more destructive. It's like a paralysis. It starts small. You stop trusting other people. Then you stop trusting that there's any truth out there at all. And eventually, you stop trusting yourself. It just hollows you out from the inside.
And believe me, the text does not mince words about where this leads. This quote from the Gita is, frankly, terrifying. It basically says that if you're ruled by this kind of doubt, you're just lost. You can't find happiness, you can't find your place in the world. It's a huge, flashing warning sign about what happens when this doubt takes over.
Okay, so here's the really critical part. It's about how these things change over time. Look at this comparison. When you're young, maybe you have some passing moments of skepticism, but over a lifetime, that can harden into this deep, unshakable cynicism. Or those sudden flashes of anger, they can calcify into a bitter resentment that just poisons everything. And up against that, wisdom really has no chance.
So if that's the problem, what's the solution? Well, classical Indian thought laid out a very specific game plan to fight back against this corrosion, and it's called the path of renunciation.
The official term is Vānaprastha, and it was seen as the third major stage of life. The key here is that it's not about just dropping everything and running off to the woods. It's a planned, step-by-step withdrawal from the exact things that fuel envy and doubt. That constant need to be in control, to compete, and to own more stuff.
I know. The word renunciation sounds kind of negative, right? Like you're just giving up. But the Gita totally reframes it. Look at this quote. True renunciation isn't about walking away from your job or your family. It's an inside job. It's about doing what you have to do, but, and this is the important part, letting go of being so attached to how it all turns out.
And this is a really, really crucial point. Vānaprastha was never about failure or escape. It was a proactive, defensive strategy. You're not running from life. You're actively building a safe space for your wisdom so it can actually survive and even thrive as you get older.
Okay, so how does this actually work in practice? Well, the text describes it as a kind of moral repair. It's like fixing the damage that's been done over the years.
And here are the nuts and bolts. It's a series of steps. First, you actively practice letting go of that need to control everything. Then, instead of clinging to power, you pass it on to the next generation. And this is huge, you starve envy by caring less about your status and just stopping the comparison game. And when you do all that, you finally have the mental energy to turn your attention inward and just reflect.
Now check out these two metaphors, because they're really powerful. First, moral repair. It's about finally putting a stop to those negative habits you've been building up your whole life. And second, karmic conservation. I love that one. It's like, by taking a step back, you stop getting tangled up in new drama, which gives all the stuff from your past a chance to finally work itself out.
And to see how high the stakes are, just look at these two case studies from the epic Mahabharata. On one hand, you've got King Dhritarashtra. He just can't let go of power. He only renounces it after his stubbornness has caused absolute disaster, and by then, it's just too late. The whole point is lost. But then you have King Yudhishthira. He does his duty, and then he steps away at the right time. The result? Clarity and freedom. It just goes to show you, timing is everything.
Okay, this is all really interesting ancient philosophy, but let's be real. What does any of this have to do with us, today, in the 21st century?
Well, because our modern world pushes us in the complete opposite direction. Look at this comparison. It's night and day. Instead of a smart withdrawal, our culture tells us to just keep accumulating. More money, more followers, more stuff. We're told to cling to our influence with a death grip and to treat aging like it's a war we have to win, instead of seeing it as a time for a different kind of contribution, one that comes from real clarity.
And this is just such a sharp insight into human psychology. Think about it. The very things that made you successful in your prime, that ambition, that drive, that need for control, if you can't let go of them, they can actually become toxic later on. They can literally become the roadblocks that stop you from ever becoming wise.
So, if there's just one thing you take away from all this, one big idea, what should it be?
It's this whole idea of renunciation. It isn't about hating the world or being pessimistic. Not at all. It comes from a really profound and compassionate place. An understanding that wisdom is delicate. It's fragile. You have to protect it. You have to give it room to breathe, far away from the chokehold of envy and doubt.
So, I want to leave you with a question to think about. Our world screams at us to hold on tighter, to get more, to never ever quit. But after looking at this ancient idea, you have to wonder, what's the real cost of that? What are we actually losing? What wisdom are we sacrificing because we refuse to learn how to let go?